In 2020, Chinese-made cars accounted for less than 2% of Australian new car sales. Today, that number is approaching 20%. 1 in 5 new cars sold in Australia comes from China. Not from Japan, not from Germany, not from Korea. From China. And that shift isn't a curiosity. It's the single most consequential change in Australian motoring in a generation. The brands driving it are not here to fill a budget niche and disappear. They are hiring engineers from BMW, Volkswagen and Toyota, posting 5-star ANCAP scores and offering 7-year warranties while European brands quietly exit the market. Here are the brands reshaping that market right now and the bigger force they've built together. BYD. 12 months ago, BYD held 1.6% of the Australian new car market. Today it holds 4%, and it's not slowing down. In August 2025, BYD became the 6th biggest selling brand in Australia, ahead of Mitsubishi, ahead of Volkswagen, ahead of brands that have been here for 50 years. And this isn't a budget range doing it. The Ceylon 7 rivals the Hyundai Tucson and Kia Sportage. The Shark 6 Ute goes head-to-head with the Ford Ranger and Toyota Hilux in the most contested segment in the country. The Seal sedan undercuts the BMW 3 Series while matching it on tech. BYD isn't competing from below, it's competing across every segment at once, and it nearly quadrupled its year-on-year sales in a single month. That's a jump most brands never see in a decade. So how did a company most Australians couldn't name in 2020 pull it off? Look at who opened the door first. MG. MG is the brand that opened that door and never looked back. It was the first Chinese-owned nameplate to hit serious mainstream volume in Australia, and it has used the head start ruthlessly. The MG ZS is currently one of the top 10 selling vehicles in the entire market, not just one of the top 10 SUVs. It ranks among the top 10 vehicles against every ute, every family car, and every Toyota in the country. The MG HS Hybrid starts around $40,000 drive away with a 7-year warranty, while a comparable European SUV costs $15,000 more and has a shorter warranty. MG now runs over 100 dealer points across Australia, expanding its map at the exact moment legacy brands are shrinking theirs. GWM and Haval. Great Wall Motors entered Australia before most people understood what was happening. The GWM Cannon Ute outsold the Nissan Navara in 2023 and has not looked back. The Haval Jolion is the 3rd best-selling small SUV in Australia as of 2025. The Haval H6 GT is the 4th most popular plug-in hybrid in the country. These are not niche results. They are mainstream charts, mainstream segments, mainstream customers. And here is the contrast. While Mitsubishi was axing 4 models in a single press release and calling Australian safety compliance commercially unfeasible, GWM was quietly expanding the footprint it already had. Chery. Chery is running 2 plays at once. The mainstream Chery brand undercuts Japanese rivals on value, while the JQ sub-brand sells European SUV looks at Chinese prices. In August 2025, Chery cracked the Australian top 10 selling brands for the first time, and not on one hit model, but a whole portfolio across segments. That's the harder achievement and the more dangerous one for incumbents. A 2024 JD Power study placed Chery near global dependability averages, and in some markets it has offered a 1 million kilometre engine warranty. Geely. Here's the twist. Geely is a brand Australians already trust without knowing it. Volvo is Geely, Polestar is Geely, Smart is Geely, Lotus is Geely. The company behind all 4 is now stepping out under its own name with the EX5 electric SUV, 5-star ANCAP on its first attempt, with child presence alerts and autonomous braking that match anything in its class. Geely has spent years reading this market through Volvo's dealerships, so it didn't arrive guessing. The EX5 undercuts the Tesla Model Y while delivering comparable range and, by most reviews, a better interior. A company with that engineering depth and dealer network isn't dipping a toe in, and the brands sitting above Geely on price should be paying attention, because that's exactly where this goes next. Zeekr. Zeekr answers a question the premium EV segment did not want asked. What happens when a Chinese brand chases Volvo money with Chinese manufacturing efficiency? The Zeekr X launched targeting Model Y and Volvo EX30 buyers, and immediately built waitlists at a price that makes the Swedish badged option hard to justify. Zeekr is a Geely sub-brand, so the engineering is not speculative. The 7X, arriving in 2025, takes aim at the $65,000 to $85,000 bracket that Audi, BMW and Mercedes have owned in Australia for decades, with no real challenge from below. That floor has now been breached, and for the German brands that is not a marketing headache to wave away. It is the first time the premium buyer has a credible reason to look elsewhere. LDV. LDV plays where the prestige brands do not bother to look: vans and light commercials, the workhorses of the Australian economy. The Deliver 9, E-Deliver 9 and T60 Ute have quietly been winning fleet contracts while everyone else chased headlines. And fleets are the smart place to win. Those buyers do not care about badge prestige. They care about total cost of ownership, service intervals and parts availability. And LDV has invested in all three. Here's why that matters more than it looks. A tradie who runs an LDV trouble-free for 3 years becomes a private buyer in 2028 without anyone having to sell to him. What starts in a company car park ends in a driveway. Xpeng and Deepal, these two are grouped on purpose because they share one weapon the others do not lead with: technology, not price. The Xpeng G6 targets the Tesla Model Y at roughly $1,000 less, with over-the-air updates, driver assist that rivals anything outside a Tesla, and an interior that reviewers rate as superior. Deepal is bringing the SO7 electric SUV and has teased a Prado-sized range extender for Australia, aimed straight at a segment where the wait for a Toyota Land Cruiser still runs to months. For years, the phrase credible Tesla alternative was a contradiction in terms. It is not anymore. Leapmotor. Leapmotor isn't a household name in Australia yet, but it will be. The B10 is on track to be the cheapest electric SUV on Australian roads, and the C10 mid-size SUV is arriving through the Stellantis distribution network, meaning the same logistics that moved Jeep and Peugeot are now shipping Chinese EVs to Australian buyers. That's not a footnote. When one of Europe's largest car groups decides its future Australian revenue runs through Chinese product rather than its own engineering, the competitive map has already been redrawn by the establishment itself. Brand 10, the force behind all of them. The 10th entry is not a brand at all. It is what the previous 9 built together. In August 2025, 4 Chinese brands sat in the Australian national top 10 at the same time. For the first time ever, BYD 6th, GWM 8th, MG 9th, Chery 10th. In a market Toyota, Mazda and Ford have ruled for years, that is not an anomaly, it is the new baseline. Chinese-made vehicles made up roughly 17.5% of all Australian new car sales by mid-2025, up from 2.7% in 2020. Most brands need a generation for a shift like that. These did it in 5 years. And analysts now expect 1 in 5 new cars sold in Australia to come from China by 2026. The question being asked next is when it becomes 1 in 4. 5 years ago, every company on this list was a maybe for the Australian market. Today they hold 1 in 5 new car sales, fill 4 of the national top 10 at once, and expand dealer networks exactly as the established brands contract theirs. The Chinese brands are not taking over the Australian car market. They already have. So the real question is not whether to take them seriously, it is whether the badge you bought 3 years ago still carries the resale support, the dealer density, and the ownership certainty it had the day you signed. Pull up Redbook today. Get the current trade-in value for your exact vehicle. Write the number down. Come back in 6 months. If the gap is bigger than normal depreciation for your category, the market is not aging your car. It is pricing the transformation of your whole segment.